Looks like it's 6 o'clock. Meeting come to order. As chairman of the select board, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, in accordance with the Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this board is meeting electronically utilizing the Zoom platform. We previously gave notice in the public of how to access this meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the Town of Lee's website at leenh.org. If anybody has a problem with this access, please call 603-659-5414. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Mr. Bugby.
I'm here and alone, sir.
Mr. Brown.
I am here and I am alone.
Mr. LaCourse, I am here and I am alone. Thank you very much. First order of business is a continued road acceptance public hearing for Daniels Drive and Armstrong Way. So the floor is open for comment. So help me, anybody, about raised hands or anything, or chats.
Well, I'll go first. I don't see any issues why we don't accept the road. Some of the issues that a guy, one of the gentlemen had stated last week, that there was drainage that would affect the road or standing water. I don't see how water standing in the center of the development or behind people's houses would affect the road. The road's been built up 9 or 10 feet from what pit bottom was before. The road was built to town specs. There's zero issue with the construction of the road that Knipstein had done. He's a really good contractor. So I have zero issues with the road itself. My only issue was the center of the development with the water, and that all goes back to the fact that there's wells in there, really nice lawns when everything grows back in, and irrigation lines. And if we would ever have to get in there to do any work to those ditch lines, there's a high probability we would break something on private property to get to it. So those were my only concerns.
Thank you, Steve. I'm watching the chat boxes or hands, but I don't see anything popping up. You see anything, Julie?
I see one question from the Riverly Homeowners Association board is asking Karen what she found from her research last week.
Karen, you have the floor.
I spoke with our town attorney, and although the correspondence from her is not public information, what she said is if the road is built, if the design was approved and the road was built per the design, we have to, that's not a reason to not accept the road. If it was built as designed, we should accept the road. And it was.
Any more comments?
Hi, this is Lindsay Bovair. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
I can.
Hi, so my name is Lindsay Bovair, and I live at 25 Daniels Drive, and I'm the president of the Riverly HOA. So what I'm hearing is that the road acceptance and the drainage issues in the development are two different things that we can't tie together. So as Karen had mentioned, if the road is built correctly, then it'll be accepted.
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yes, we can't tie individual drainage to the road because they're not connected.
Okay. So with that said, there is an obvious issue with drainage in the development that I'd like to comment on, if that's okay. And I'll keep it brief, but I just wanted to say that in the select board meeting, I wasn't able to connect in last week, but I did go back and watch the recording. This is the January 25th meeting. Steve Bullock mentioned something that raised my eyebrows, and he actually just mentioned it again today. And he specifically noted that he'd like language considered that the above ground drainage that runs relatively flat is not the responsibility of the town, but of the homeowners to maintain. So for Steve to specifically call that out, it made me realize the town too sees an issue and doesn't want to be responsible for it. And this certainly causes concern. So I did a little bit of research and I looked at our association governing documents. And in section 6, it reads, "It shall be the obligation of the individual lot owners as well as the association to generally maintain the below described drainage easements by maintaining their topography as developed and maintaining and mowing grass." So what this means is that it's on Chimberg to develop according to the topography that's on the drainage plan, and then the association will be responsible for maintaining that. So since I was unable to comment and express my concern at the last select board meeting, on behalf of the board, I sent a letter of concern directly to Paul Kerrigan of Chimberg, and just letting him know that we're uneasy about the drainage issues, that several folks are concerned if the issues will ever be addressed. As you all know, we had a severe drought last summer, and once the rain hit later in the year, that's when the issues in the development became apparent. And by the time remediation had started, the bad weather settled in and everything came to a screeching halt. So basically the homeowners we don't have much confidence, as from what we've seen so far. There's only been a few fixes here and there, and many of the fixes weren't completed yet, or even some of them were completed and still have issues. So the view from my backyard, I live in the inner circle that Steve was referencing, it's quite frightening actually. Water is sitting stagnant on each of our lots, and the drainage basin where the water is supposed to collect is bone dry. I'm not an engineer, but I'd make the assumption that the first thing is that the water should absorb into the ground, and or the slope should shed the water away from our yards and into the drainage basins, and neither of those appear to be working well. So as it stands now, backyards are flooded so much that we hope the tax assessor doesn't charge us for a lakefront tax. So all kidding aside though, there's the fear that once the road is approved that Chimberg will pack their things and leave. So I expressed these concerns to Paul, and he kindly and firmly responded to my note and followed up with a phone call last week, providing assurance that Chimberg acknowledges the drainage issues and that they are committed to addressing the issues. They committed to working with each affected homeowner prior to remediation during the spring and the summer. And then since several homeowners are uneasy about the drainage issues and Chimberg's commitment, Paul has agreed to send a communication to the homeowners addressing 2 key points. The first is that Chimberg is committed to fixing the drainage issues the right way, and they will not leave us in a lurch. And the second key point is that Chimberg will educate us on the drainage design, as most of us are not engineers and don't understand infiltration drainage or whatever the system is called. So they will tell us where water should and should not be, so we know what to expect. So we should not have lakes in our front and backyards, but there may be water on the perimeter of our properties. So we're all committed, we're all counting on Chimberg to hire the right experts and personnel to ensure that the development is completed properly and that they fix any drainage issues. The only issue that we should have is deciding on what to eat at our next barbecue post-COVID, of course. So I just want to thank you for your time and thank Paul for reaching out.
Well, thank you very much. I understand your concern, but it becomes a civil matter, as you just basically discussed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments and questions at this time?
Yes, Mr. Paul Kerrigan would like to speak.
Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is Paul Kerrigan, and I just wanted to confirm the vast majority of the conversation that Lindsay just shared The one additional point I would like to make sure everybody understands is that we certainly are committed to kind of cleaning up a bunch of the loose ends in our subdivision. It was unfortunate that we ran out of a little bit of time, and there were people that were some of the homeowners were being very patient. There are some drainage issues, and some of them, though minor, seem annoying, and we are committed to completing and fixing them. We have sent off a letter that lists all of the drainage issues to the board, which we assume would be shared with the rest of the folks over there. We've also individually acknowledged each email and/or issue with each individual homeowner. So we feel like with some better communication, things should be in the spring. We'll be off and running. You know, April 1st to June 1st was the targeted time frame in which I think we should be able to wrap everything up out there. So I just wanted to confirm that we had that conversation with Lindsay and the board, and I believe the drainage issues by June 1 should all be taken care of.
Thank you, Paul. We appreciate the comment.
Thank you.
Anything else from anybody at this time? Anything, Julie?
No.
Therefore, I'm going to close the public hearing. Therefore, I move to accept Daniels Drive and Armstrong Way as a town-owned street and right-of-way, and approve the maintenance bond of $48,000 as recommended by the town engineer.
Second,
We have a second discussion on the motion.
no.
Yes.
Please, go ahead. Oh, are you voting or are you discussing?
No, I'm voting.
Oh, I'll call on Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown says yes. Mr. Bugby?
Yes.
Ms. LaCourse, yes, motion carries. Thank you very much on this particular action. Next order of business, Police Chief, a sale of Dodge Charger.
Good evening. I don't know if you'll remember, but several meetings ago, I discussed with the board about trading in our 2016 Charger for the new Cruiser and selling the 2012 that we took offline. We've in the past put it out for bids. You never get a lot for them. The taxi companies try to buy them up cheap. So I decided to, much like we did with one other Cruiser, sell it, almost private sale, if you will, listed it on Marketplace. I listed it for what Kelly Blue Book had as the fair market value. And we got an offer of exactly what we were asking for at the $3,000. So the gentleman came right down with a certified check to secure the vehicle, and we just need for the board to accept it, and he can come pick up his car.
Any questions for the police chief at this time?
And if it's hard to see that writing, but where is this gentleman from? Someplace in Maine?
Yeah, Wales, Maine.
Wales, Maine.
Wales,
Okay.
Maine.
Wow.
He uses them. He has an escort company where they escort wide loads.
Oh,
So that's what he uses them for.
all right. I was just wondering, it was hard to see where it was from. So
Yeah.
I'm
Any
fine
of-
with it.
Any other questions and comments? All right, therefore I move to accept $3,000 collected from the sale of the 2012 Dodge Charger and to deposit said funds into the town's general fund. Do I have a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
no.
No. Therefore, roll call vote. Mr. Bugby?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. LaCourse, yes, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Police Chief. Next order of business, Steve Ellick, Public Works Manager, Environmental Services for Clay Lane. Steve, you have the floor.
So we had a site walk at Clay Lane 2.5 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. There was some concerns brought up about stuff from the soils that we would be storing there leaking out into the ground, and causing water issues in the development, Clay Lane, Daniels Drive. So I reached out to a friend of mine that works for the state of New Hampshire and asked him which would be the best environmental consultant for this work, and he recommended Normando, and Karen got a hold of Normando and another company. And Normando was the company that got back to us with the better quote. So we need to sign a contract with them in order to do the work. So that's why we're before you. The money would come out of my engineering line in my operating budget. So there's no need to take it out of a trust fund.
Okay, thank you. I think there was somebody on the chat line. Did you see that, Julie?
Yes, Mr. Jason Paparo would like to speak.
Okay, sir, you have the floor.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
We can. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. It's just general statement, Jason Paparo on 20 Daniels Drive regarding the proposed project on Clay Lane. I just want to say neighbors understand the town's needs to keep our roads open and safe, but the concern that some of us have, most of us have actually, is industrial work in the residential area. There's about 95 homes within a half a mile of this site. And so this year, Riverly even built those 35 new homes that you just accepted into the town. And the Clay Lane lot, it's directly adjacent to the open space that the subdivision was required to carve out, just so we can maintain the rural character. So the industrial operations that are proposed here with this environmental impact included, it's still going to have a far greater effect on the character than the open space or not having open space would. So gravel pit was the initial proposal. It was necessary and urgent. And now, alternative options were barely discussed when that was part of the agenda. Now, the financial questions, they were met with vague estimates. So this storage project, we have similar concerns. What are other options? How much do the other proposed options cost? How much will this save us compared to what we currently do with this material? What happened to the urgent need to get sand on town land instead of buying it commercially? What's the process to even just use the land that's already behind the highway department? How does that go? What does that take? Can we sell the material? Can we have a waiver of liability if we deliver the material that's collected as a result of road maintenance? Can we even lease or buy different land that's more appropriately suited like Durham does? I mean, they do that in the town of Lee. So my family and we've invested in Lee, not just financially. I left the military and sought out this area to make a home here. And we want Lee to prosper. We want it to be beautiful. We don't want ad hoc approaches to the problems of today that are going to cause us problems for years. We've had paved roads for a really long time, and this is not a new problem. So starting this project after 100 new residents moving next door, most of them families, is ill-timed. And when we asked about alternatives, the planning board told a group of concerned citizens that this is going to happen no matter what. And that makes me angry, because public comments are supposed to ensure that resources are used to address real problems, vet possible solutions, and then respectful of those most impacted. So they're not a formality that allows a few people to make decisions on how this town operates. In the same way, it's within the Aquifer Conservation District, so material storage is specifically prohibited. And although the town may have the right to ignore this prohibition, I want to know, is it the right thing to do to store materials there? So all that I'm asking for, and I think a lot of other citizens want, is just a comprehensive written record that provides, background for and identifies the actual problem that we have, possible solutions, a comparison of the financial, legal, and time differences between those options, and then an updated plan that shows proposed courses of action. I mean, I know that the town officials are not happy about clearing this land, and they're not trying to make anybody upset by undertaking this project. But just because it's the option that we're talking about the most doesn't make it the best option. And I'd like an opportunity for us to collaborate. And I think following the process that I outlined that, demonstrates, that shows the math, the math on not just the finances, but the math on how we came to this decision to use this land as proposed. I think it's going to help us all come to a better solution to this problem and not just the solution that we're all talking about right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I thought I saw another question come up.
Yeah, I think Deirdre Houston wants to ask a question.
Please. Deirdre?
Sorry, it's David Houston.
David.
Okay.
Okay, David.
Sorry about that. One question, in addition to Jason's comments, is I see in the proposal for the environmental services, the plan, which we haven't been privy to yet, says that you're going to store 60 to 100 cubic yards of material. Some real quick math, just so you know, 60 cubic yards at 1 yard deep is 23 by 23 feet. At 3 yards deep, it's 13 by 13 feet. And at 100 cubic yards, you're talking 33 by 33 or 17 by 17. So if we're going to spend town money on doing this investigation into the quantity of material, I think it's appropriate to actually determine what the quantity of material is. And if it's this small quantity, why do we need to deforest 6 acres?
Anybody want to comment? Steve, do you have a comment?
We're not deforesting 6 acres. We're leaving a lot of trees there. It's not, the entire area is 7. I think we're probably only deforesting 3. And Karen was the one that put those numbers forward to Normando, not me. So I don't know why she chose that number. And that's per year, not cumulative. So that would be about what we put there per year, not what's stored there permanently.
Correct. And he asked me for per year, what was an estimate number that would be hauling in? Because remember, we're going to reuse the material someplace else. It's not just going to sit there forever. It's going to be used on other town projects. So that was my estimate that we would haul in there per year.
Thank you on that. And I'd like to make a comment at this point is that this is one of the reasons we're going through environmental consultants to understand the effect of putting this material on that particular site. So it's part of the process that we go through to try to understand how we might make impact on the area itself. Any other comment, please? So at this point, we're just looking to get permission to hire an environmental consultant to help us to make a decision.
Yes.
Anything else, Julie?
I do not see anything else.
I would like to make a comment if possible, please.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
So this item is currently back on the planning board's agenda for this Wednesday night. At that meeting, it is going to be asked to continue this to a meeting in March because there's no sense for the planning board to continue this application until we hear back from the environmental consultant. So just so everybody knows that at Wednesday night's planning board meeting, this item will be continued to a date in March, preferably at the end of March.
Thank you, Karen, on that. Therefore, I move to approve the agreement presented by Normando Associates Environmental Consultants as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. It's probably no discussion at this time.
Oh, you're assuming.
Uh-oh. All right, you got the floor.
Well, will they also tell us, because I guess maybe I'm not knowledgeable as maybe I should be, but can they also tell us why we need to put it on a separate site? You know, there was some state law or something that ditchings can't go someplace. Will they also cover that in their assessment? Or are they just going to look at that particular piece of property and see if those ditchings will affect it environmentally?
They're going to look at the state law on ditchings as well.
So they'll explain what that is, because I'm still a little foggy in terms of why we're even trying to do this.
Yes, they will look into the state law and what has to happen with the ditchings. Yes, that's part of their task as well.
All right. Thank you, Karen, for clarifying that.
Any other discussion?
I'm all set.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Therefore, I will look for the vote. Mr. Bugby, what's your vote?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. LaCourse, yes, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item of business is library trustees is going to make a presentation for a bid, please. Is that the speaker or something else?
Hi, this is Annie Gazowski,
Thank you.
Chair of the Library Trustees. We had 3 bids that came in for the geotechnical borings for the library project. And we went through all of them. We also passed them over to Karen Rossi, and she looked over them. And of the 3 bids, the one from Geotechnical Services is not the lowest, but we want to go with that company because the one that is the lowest, this Terracon Consultants, it seems that it takes a long time for their turnaround reports to come through. So the design team has worked with Geotechnical Services before, so we thought that that would be a really good decision to make. And we are meeting with the design team again on Friday, so we would let them know that this would be the choice that we would go with. We're going through various steps in the project. Karen and Bill were very good when we met with them. They went through all of the various steps that have to happen during the project. So we're checking them off one by one.
Any questions at this time? I'm just doing a quick scan here, see if I see anything moving. Anything from your side, Julie?
No, I don't see anything.
Therefore, I move to authorize the withdrawal of the amount not to exceed $5,700 from the Lee Library Capital Reserve Fund in order to pay Geotechnical Services Incorporated for site boring work for the renovations on the Lee Public Library. Do I have a second?
Second.
You
Thank
did
you.
say building, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask if that was the right fund. Lee Library.
Lee Library Building Capital Reserve Fund.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. It is the right one?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none. Mr. Bugby, your vote.
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. LaCourse, yes, motion carries. There you go, Annie.
Thank you.
Next item of business, Mr. Bugby is going to talk about the Town Hall Renovation Committee.
Just a short update. We've broken into 7, yes, count them, 7 subcommittees.
Whoa.
Yes, there's only 7 of us. We have a subcommittee looking at the design for the town hall and administrative office building. We have a group that's looking at public awareness. We have a group that's developing more site planning and possible staging. We have a project schedule subcommittee. We have a group that's looking at all the buildings, the parish house, the town hall, the town annex, the museum, the tool shed. We have a group looking at funding sources, and we're looking at a group that's looking at all the buildings except for the town hall, the town annex, the tool shed. So basically it's the highway garage, 2 highway garage, transfer station, public safety facility. So I just wanted to let the board know that. So we're doing all kinds of stuff to break up work.
They're cranking along is what you're telling me.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Any questions?
I have a comment. The town hall, the old town hall, I'll call it for now, since we have so many buildings on our plate. The old town hall suffered some damages over the past couple of weeks. And does that have any effect on, I don't know if you've already gotten bids for that prior to this damage occurring or not. I just wondered where that fell into your project.
Yeah, there was damage in the town hall. There's also was damage at the town annex as well that I'm told. So it's my understanding that Jan Allen, who noticed it, made Bill aware of that particular damage. So I'm not sure how extensive it was. I think it was mostly water coming inside. But yeah, we're supposed to talk about a little bit later in the next item in terms of the town hall,
Okay.
in terms of repairs and stuff like that. So yeah, so we
Okay.
can talk about that point.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Bugby?
Just Annie Gazowski would like to speak.
Please.
Hi, this would be a good time for me to mention that since Scott was talking about how they're looking at all the buildings. We recently found out that the library, schoolhouse portion of the library has been designated and will go on to the New Hampshire.
Historical register.
That's it, historical registry,
Yes,
of historic
yes.
places. Phew, so many words. So we were really pleased to have that happen.
And
That is
the
good news.
Heritage Commission will also, if the town is amenable, we will do a sign for that building as well, just like we did
Yes.
for the town hall and the museum and the tool shed too.
Right. They'll be sending us the, all the documents. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Exciting. Thank you very much.
John, I have a question.
Please.
Even through this dialogue, I didn't hear anybody mention the museums. Can somebody tell me the status of the museum and any improvements we're gonna make there?
Well, I did mention the museum. That's one of the buildings that the subcommittee, one of our subcommittees is looking at.
Okay,
So,
I didn't hear it, but that's fine. Great.
yep. And then also, I assume Julie will bring it up, but I've made a request from the committee that somebody from the town visit periodically the town hall, the annex, the museum, and the parish house, just to check on them. Now that there's nobody in there on a regular basis, they should be checked periodically for damage. Parish house doesn't have any water going into it. Other buildings, the annex and the town hall do. So we should keep an eye on those particular structures. So,
Well, wouldn't Bill Stevens do that?
well, I made the request to Julie.
Okay.
Whoever has the barking dog, could you mute, please?
Yes, I'll get rid of them.
You don't have to get rid of them.
Well, no, I don't mean put them to sleep, John.
Oh.
That's not your-
Thank you very much. Oh, geez.
Mr. Bugby, can I say something about the,
I'm not running the meeting. You don't need my permission. You need John's.
Mr. LaCourse, can I say something about the museum?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
We were doing work over there this summer, like mowing, and the deck on the old train station is in pretty rough shape and needs to get replaced. You could poke your finger through some of the carrying beams.
Yep. I know Bill's done some work over there. I don't know what his plans are for doing more.
I guess we'll have to keep our eye on that.
So
I'm glad the committee's looking at it.
maybe Julie can touch base with Bill and see if he's aware of what's going on over there, if he has plans. I know he has a list of things to look at, but I'm not sure if that's one of them.
Yeah, I'll speak to him about it.
Okay, thank you.
I believe Annie Gazowski has her hand raised again.
Okay, Annie, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I forgot to lower it.
Okay.
Well, that'll do it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody on that item. Next, move to the town administrator, please.
So, yes, as was mentioned, the town hall experienced some damage as a result of a broken pipe because the furnace stopped working on a cold night. Primex contacted a company to do the mitigation and the repairs. I believe the mitigation work has been completed, although the adjuster hasn't seen the invoice for that yet. He thinks it's going to be at least around $2,200. And then as you saw, the estimate for the repair work is $4,010, I believe. So just a question to the board, knowing that at some point in the near future, work is going to be done on Town Hall, do you want to go ahead and have the repair work done? Keep in mind that this claim is being covered, so we are going to have to pay our $1,000 deductible, which would have been eaten up by the mitigation work. But if it's all going to get torn apart soon, then maybe we don't want to bother fixing it. So just your thoughts?
My thought on this is we go ahead with the repair because even though we have plans for renovating, it'll probably be some time before we actually do any formal renovation to the historic town hall. Because we don't know what the future might be. And it's still a usable space.
Yep.
Even as it sits now, if we put the heat on, it's still a space that can be used for meetings.
Okay, anyone else have any other thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are similar, but not to the same extent that John's is. I think we should do whatever we need to do, like for instance, in the entryway, the hallway there, to make
Yeah.
sure that's all up to snuff. And in terms of whatever we need to do in the town clerk's office, so there's enough sufficient insulation and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But I'm not for, and I know it's not our money, but actually somebody has to pay for it. Doing things that we're just gonna rip out in 2 years, it doesn't make any sense.
well, I guess my understanding is that they're gonna put back the insulation and the wall board and then
Which is-
paint. I
Yeah.
mean, do we hold off on painting and just
Yeah.
get it all
that's-
closed up again?
Yeah, because if you put the insulation back, that's fine. You put the wallboard back, that's fine. And they're gonna do the mudding, but there's no sense painting it. Because eventually those things are gonna get ripped out anyways, so. Because we're changing all the, well, in terms of the plan at the moment, we're changing walls and stuff, so they're gonna be in there gripping everything out. Then also on the list, there's some smoke detectors and stuff, like those things should be put back.
Right,
But I don't think all the finished stuff should be done.
So you're
in my view,
basically
it's a waste of
saying-
money.
You're basically saying, Scott, just the cosmetic stuff you don't want to do at this point.
Yeah, basically.
I
yes.
understand. But it'd still be functional if you put wall board up.
Yeah, it won't look pretty, but that's okay.
It'll be functional. And that's all I'm looking for, to have a functional place.
Yep.
As we look at the renovation, when the spring and summer comes and furnace is not running, it's still going to be a space for people to have some meetings.
So like in the quote there was like 2 coats of paint and primer and stuff like that. Let's skip that. So-
okay,
And I understand we're only paying $1,000, but eventually somebody's got to pay that. Insurance
Right.
company will pass it on to somebody. We'll pay for some of it. So
okay.
Mr. Brown, any comment?
No, I think you've covered it. I think we do what's structural or required, but we don't do what's cosmetic and so on. So that's it.
I think we're in agreement on that.
Okay, we've managed, or the highway department has managed to get the furnace at Town Hall back up and running. They had to get Steve can correct me, I think it was some kind of fan motor that had to be replaced. So we're hopeful that the furnace will continue until the major work is done. But obviously I'll keep you posted on that. One other question I guess I do want to raise on Town Hall is, do we want to continue heating that building at all? It's not being used.
well, the thought is if we're going to use it for meetings, you have to provide bathroom facilities, I would think so, which means you need water.
Right, I
Mhm.
understand that. I guess I didn't mean forever. What I mean is,
You mean
until
temporarily?
COVID is over, or until such time as that building's gonna start being used again.
If there's going to be a period of time that the furnace is down, et cetera, we need to go in there and drain the pipes and let the building sit there till they complete all of the other utilities, if you would, to have a functional building.
I guess I'm trying to get my handle on this, but it's a good question. I don't see people getting back to back in a face-to-face situation while the coronavirus is still extremely active. The building probably won't open till mid-summer, maybe at this point, for people to go in and have meetings there, put chairs out so they can have discussions and everything else. So I can see turning it down or off at this point until May or sometime that we consider to be reasonable, then turning it back on. My only concern is I'm not a specialist in the area. If you turn all the heat and moisture gets in there, you're gonna end up with fungus and mold and other problems. I'm just putting that on the table for discussion.
Now, Julie, did you find out, did they turn the heat off or down? And what
Yeah.
caused the heat failure, the furnace to
Well,
fail?
the turning the temperature down, from what I can gather from talking to furnace people, had nothing to do with the furnace
Okay.
breaking. The
Okay.
furnace is old.
Yep.
It's going to need to be repaired sooner rather than later.
Okay.
I mean, one way to look at it is if that furnace was going to break, at least it waited until all of the paperwork and computers were out of the building, because otherwise, I mean, that would have been,
Yep.
that would have been bad.
Point well.
Also, I'm not aware of water damage or recent water damage to the annex. So you think Bill Stevens knows about that?
Well, Jan Allen, who is the curator of the museum,
Yeah.
let me know. And I said, well, you need to let Bill and or Kristen know. And she said, okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
So if Bill doesn't know about it, can you have him go over and check?
Sure. Do you happen to know whether she saw water or she saw water damage?
Ooh, I don't know.
Okay.
She said there was water damage. There was water damage to the annex.
Okay.
Yes.
That,
So-
may be old, that might be old, but
Right.
we'll check it out.
Remember, Julie, we had our
Yes.
water pipe
Yep.
burst last year.
Yep, I remember.
So maybe you could check with Bill, and if he has heard about it, let him deal with it. If he
Yep.
hasn't, then he needs to go over and maybe check it out.
Yep.
Which brings us to the other thing I asked you to do that you said we could talk about is in terms of having either one of Bill or Kristen check all those buildings that aren't,
Yeah,
periodically.
Yep, I spoke to Bill Stevens about that. He is going to put that into his rotation on Thursdays.
Okay, so every week you can just check it. And
Yep.
like the parish house, I'm just thinking, if something comes and breaks the window and then the weather gets in, stuff like that. There's no
Right.
water there. There is
Yep.
electricity there though.
Yep.
But there's electricity at the museum, but no water. But the annex and the town hall, there's water and power to both of them. So we should be checking that periodically.
Yep. So just
notice-
circling back to town hall, is the consensus that we just try to continue keeping it at 50 degrees?
If it was not I guess going back to that question, you said it wasn't a fault of the furnace for failing because it was at 55 degrees. It was an actual failure in the system. I'd
Right.
rather keep some kind of heat in the building
Okay.
because I don't want to have fungus or mold or rot.
Okay.
I concur.
Okay.
Okay. One of the other things that we're doing is, as you may know, JP Pest services all of the town buildings. So he's looking at all of the buildings and is going to provide me with some updated numbers, because that's another thing we want to talk about is whether we want to continue having pest control at the annex. Probably at the annex we do, because that building is being occupied, but whether we want to keep doing that at town hall.
Well,
So
pest controls means carpenter ants or anything else, doesn't it?
they generally did something with all of the bugs that collect inside. They didn't clean them. I think we had that zapper thing upstairs, and then they put traps for the rodents.
I think you got to maintain that, no matter what
Okay.
happens.
All right.
I think it's important to maintain the buildings.
Yep.
As even though we have future plans that we hope will come through. And yes, Ruth, I do see your hand. I'll get to you. I think we should maintain as much as we can. These are minor costs compared to the overall,
Right.
loss of building in the long run.
Okay.
I concur.
All right.
Okay, Ruth, you have the floor.
Yes, I just wanted to make a couple comments that, in terms of using the town hall, I know we had asked several months earlier if we might be able to use the town hall space. As the weather does improve, we're still not seeing any letdown from the COVID virus, but we would love to be able to utilize that space, possibly for a socially distant story time. If the weather's bad, the Friends are hoping to have a flower event where if the weather is pouring down rain, that we might be able to actually go in there, make a loop around so people can come around and get some flowers and go out again. So we would really like to, see some heat in there if necessary, or we wait until it's springtime. So just to keep in mind that we did want to try and use that space if we needed to in the spring.
We will keep that in mind. Yes, Steve.
Yeah, and-
Mr.
oh,
LaCourse, we have a logistical issue though, which needs to be dealt with because that place needs to be cleaned. I don't know if you've been in there after they moved out, but
I haven't yet.
Denise's desk is still there, and the place just needs a good clean.
A good cleaning.
Mm.
Well, whoever wants to use it has to clean it.
The other thing I just, we didn't have anything in this year's budget for utilities for the Daily building. One of the thoughts was that we would in part be able to pay for it because we were going to see reduced utility bills for town hall and the annex. And the same is true for fiscal 22. And it's not tens of thousands of dollars, but I just want everybody to continue to be aware of that.
Mhm.
It's good to note that. Thank you. Steve, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so last Saturday, the first deliberative session that we had, was when the furnace broke again. The pipe broke the night before or 2 nights before, and Peter went and checked it during the deliberative session, and the heat was all the way back down to 40 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So I left the session early to go get parts to fix it, and they don't make parts for that furnace that's in there anymore. They haven't made them for 5 years. We got lucky. We found a fan motor at FW Web in Dover. It was the last one in the entire company. So, and we were able to get it fixed and it came right back on. But when I went upstairs in the town hall that morning, you could have fried an egg on that fan motor. We're lucky that Peter checked it when he did, because it smelled like something was burning upstairs when I got there. But the main point of the statement is I'm not sure how long, with all the things that have started to go wrong with it, all of a sudden, we're going to be able to keep the furnace running.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
My point was, I don't know if it's in the renovation part of it to put a new furnace in it, but you should add one in if it's not.
Yeah, the proposal we had was all the utilities get changed.
All right.
Totally.
Electrical system would be ripped out and new electrical system put in and a new furnace. Also, we would have, I think, cooling in there as well. So all those utilities would be replaced.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, Julie, I see other items to discuss.
The skating rink, again, thanks to the highway department, appears to be a huge success. I did just touch base with Dave Witham, our risk management consultant at Primex, just to see whether he had any thoughts on either any of the signage that we've put up or anything else. And his comment was that they recommend making guidelines for hockey. So one of the things he suggested was to set aside certain times where hockey is allowed and certain times when hockey isn't allowed. The concern being that people playing hockey there at the same time as kids, playing or just skating, an errant puck or a stick might cause a problem. So Scott Nemeth can certainly speak to this better than I, just because he's more familiar with hockey and youth hockey and the usage of the rink, as well as when Steve is seeing the usage of the rink. But we might want to make it so that first, no hockey is allowed when school is in session, because slapping the puck against boards can be noisy. Also, we might want to say that hockey is allowed at any time, as long as no one else is there just skating, and then possibly set aside a special time when it's specifically designated for hockey.
Scott? Scott, are you there?
He texted me. He had to go to another meeting, so he left.
Okay,
Okay.
well, I had asked him, so I can read you what his response was via email. I would say that early morning is the best. As it gets dark out, it's not easy to see the puck. Plus, it could be dangerous without lights. You can skate easier as the sun goes down. Maybe Saturday and Sunday mornings until noon, then switch to skating, or Wednesday skating only. Just my opinion. So those were his thoughts.
I think they're good thoughts. Mr. Bugby, Mr. Brown, you got comment?
Steve, are people out there trying to play hockey?
Yeah, there's been people out there playing hockey. Well, there's been people skating, and this is something that we talked about in the highway department, that if it became an issue, we'd just put up, you can only play hockey Saturday and Sunday mornings from like 8 to 10, and then give them like Wednesday morning, since school's not in session that day, and then the rest of it is free skate. The majority of the people using it are parents and little kids, and it's busy all the time, which is really nice to see. There's been a lot of use.
So my other question would be, when are you seeing the hockey people trying to play hockey?
It's random times throughout. This past Saturday, there were people skating and playing hockey, and then during the week when school's been in session, there's been kids out there playing hockey, and that goes back to what the principal had said about distraction in it. I've heard a hockey puck hit the board, and it sounds like a gunshot going off, so there's no point in letting them play when there's school in session.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just going to run through this in my mind, and help me please. So during school time, there will be no hockey, but it'll be open skating?
Yeah, and that's the way it has been pretty much, except for 1 or 2 times.
Okay, so I want to make that posted or somehow gets up in the league crier so people see that. And then what was the other thing, Steve, you said, or Scott had said, like Saturday morning, 8 to 12 would be hockey?
Early morning hours allow hockey.
Yes.
I think that's going to be the best answer right there.
And we would, and so it's not that you're only, so they can play hockey on it whenever, as long as there's no one that wants to go play on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if there's no one on it and someone shows up at noon on Saturday, there's nothing that says he can't hit the stick or hit the puck around. But if he wants to, but as soon as somebody shows up, he's got to put it away because it's the free skate hours.
That's correct. So Julie, what do you have so far?
Well, so far we have just not during school hours, no hockey during school hours, and that it's okay to play hockey at any other time as long as there's no one there. Let's just call it free skating.
Well, I was going to be a little bit more restrictive in the sense that, hockey could be, 8 to 12. I think Scott said that on Saturday and Sunday. And then afterwards, it'll be open, basically skating, no hockey. But as Steve was saying, is if hockey people don't show up Saturday morning and they're not doing anything, then skaters are allowed to use it.
I would reduce it from 8 to 10 though, because there's a lot more parents and kids wanting to use it than hockey players wanting to use it.
Point well made.
So 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, hockey takes precedent?
Yes.
Okay,
And the rest of the time is free skating.
okay.
So, Mr. LaCourse, now that we created rules, who's going to monitor them and enforce them?
That's a good question.
So we see it, so we'll watch it. And I'd like to say that the people that have been using it have been extremely respectful of each other. So when there has been hockey players on it, they've been at one end and everyone else has been on the other. They haven't commingled.
Okay.
Everyone has been extremely respectful of each other's personal space out there.
Okay.
It's actually been nice to see people get along that well.
Okay. Well, it's in their best interest if they enjoy it, and it sounds like many people do, because as we remember, we okayed this on a temporary basis.
Yes.
So if things go and become very problematic, then we just won't have it next year. And I don't think people want to see that happen. So
No.
Steve, do you want to talk about the lights?
Oh yeah, so we put a light up on a tree so we could see what we were doing. if we went out there to put water on it at night or scrape it off, because it was safety issue. It was just a regular plug that you plug into a wall to a light, and somebody's figured out that they could plug it into their car and make it work. So last weekend they were out there skating till 10 o'clock at night. I did talk to the abutting landowners on the other side of the road, and they didn't seem to have a problem with it, but it's obviously not something that we talked about. We just did it so we could see what we were doing at night if we went out to put water on it after it was busy. It's obviously not permanent if you plug it into a wall. So we had set it up so we would just hook a battery up to it with an inverter to make it 12 volts, so we could just use it really quick and get out. I just wanted to let you know that someone did figure out how to use it, and we're going to try to figure out a way to make it so they can't use it, but still make it so we can do what we need to do safely.
Okay.
People are creative, aren't they?
Yes.
So Steve, when it snows, do you guys go out there and scrape the snow off, or how's
Not
that
right
working?
away.
I'm sorry?
Not right away. People have been shoveling it off.
Okay.
We'll go out a day or two after the storm with one of the skid steers and scrape it off
Okay.
real quick. And we did that this morning. You know, it just depends on where we're at.
Okay.
That's not high on my priority list, is
Right.
plowing everything else out first.
Okay. Understand.
Anything else on the ice skating ring?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, let's move on to the next item on your list.
The Health Trust advised us that due to some, I think it's some federal COVID relief, we could adopt changes to the FSA, which allows employees a greater length of time to spend their allocation. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend this. I mean, it's generally speaking, not a problem. Plus we allow a 2.5 month extension as it is. So just looking to see whether the board wants to just keep our FSA rules the way they are.
How many people do an FSA with us?
7
Could
currently.
we query them and see if this is any interest to them, and is there a cost to this?
There's no additional cost. I will say this, just if you remember the way that FSAs work, an employee elects a certain dollar amount at the start of the year, and then they have that money available to them at the start of the year, but it's drawn out of their paycheck over the course of a year.
Yep.
So the risk to the employer is that an employee will spend, let's just say it's $1,000, which is the max.
Yep.
You know, employee could spend all $1,000 on day 2 and then leave, and there's no way for the town to get that money back.
I see. Yep.
Conversely, once the year and the 2.5 month extension period has gone by, if an
Yep.
employee has not spent their money,
Yeah, they lose it.
they lose it. That does sometimes happen to some of our employees, although I know that Denise tries to remind people that they have to spend their money. Apparently, there are some employers that kind of rely on that to pay for the program. I mean, that's not, I don't think how we've looked at it, but so yeah, I can take a poll of employees to see if they think that the extended time period would be helpful.
Is this a 1 year only thing, or is this forever and ever?
No, it's just a 1 year only.
I would be in
Somehow-
favor of asking the employees, if everybody's used theirs or is planning to use theirs by the end of, what is it,
Right.
February?
Yep,
Then no, but if you've got people that are scrambling trying to use the money, I would like us to explore this.
okay. And then the second one is the spend down for terminated employees. So right now, when you leave, you lose your money. And this would allow terminated employees the ability to continue to spend the money, but only insofar as they put the money in, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
All right.
I think that's realistic. I mean, that's the money they put in.
Okay, again,
as we don't get burned.
apparently there are employers that rely on that money.
Geez, we're too nice then, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I will,
I would be in favor of that one as well.
Yep.
okay, I will poll the 7 employees.
Okay. And could you get back to us and let us know what you find out?
Yep.
Thank you.
So one other item, I guess, under miscellaneous, you may recall on Saturday, there was discussion about using the town's website for candidates for office, local office, not any other office. So I spoke with our attorney, Sharon Summers, just to make sure that that was something that the town could do. Because again, as you know, there are certain things regarding elections and electioneering that we are not allowed to do.
Mhm.
She said that we could put bio information on there. So candidate X has lived in Lee for 20 years and candidate X has been on this committee and that committee and, you know, is a chef, as a profession, or whatever the person wants to put for their bio information, and then also include contact information. But she strongly recommended against putting any information on there that would appear to be campaigning, even though we would be allowing it for all the candidates.
Right, so unfortunately, it'd be nice to be able to put your platform, what you stand
Yeah,
for, but I
yeah.
guess you can't do that.
Well, she strongly advised against it.
But they could, you said you could put all that information, but then put like a link to their website where they can put their platform and their particular things,
yes.
right?
Correct.
Mhm.
All right. I would be okay with that.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
I'm just excited that we've got multiple people running for some positions. It's like we have a hard enough time getting them filled with just one person. So,
Yeah. Yep.
and we still have, what is it? We have one ABC position that nobody's running.
nobody wants.
Right.
So,
Maybe there'll be somebody out there. Maybe we have somebody write in or something.
yeah, well, that's usually how we find people, or we strong arm them and tell them, you need to do this.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's
So-
hard to get people to volunteer because they're so busy.
That's right.
So,
So let us know when that's set up, or at
Yeah.
least contact the people who are applying
Yeah.
for positions.
Yep.
and this,
Just
just to be
restate the
clear,
rules, everybody knows.
this is for all the positions that are town, like
Correct. Correct.
ABC, cemetery, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Well, thanks for checking on that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, the next thing, is there anything on the consent agenda you want to pull? Hearing nothing, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second,
Any discussion?
can I ask a question?
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe Julie can answer this. I'm just looking at all these things from Xfinity. What's all this stuff from CSG, important information generated, and what is all that stuff? I've never seen this before. Can you help me?
Xfinity, AKA Comcast, sends us information all the time.
Okay,
And because it's addressed to the Lee Select Board,
Mhm.
I put it in the consent agenda, so as a means of getting it out to not only the select board, but the general public, although anybody with the service should be getting notices with their bills.
so these are ones you've received over the last year or something?
Well, it shouldn't be a year, we do this regularly.
Well, one's dated August 2020, so August 3rd, 2020.
I cannot begin to imagine where that would have been.
Well, there's some from 2020, so yeah.
I'll ask Denise, but I'm just gonna guess that it's something that we got recently.
It
Okay.
all came under that one,
Oh,
Really?
okay,
it was all connected to that one
yep,
packet from Xfinity.
yep,
All right. So it's telling me there was, like, for instance, this one on September 15th, 2020, Cindy LaFrance, Comcast New Hampshire, important information generated in a whole bunch of numbers, printed English statements
yep.
in 1473.
Yep.
What does that mean to me? It doesn't mean anything to me.
Again, if the board doesn't want me, you know, you tell me, but again, this is just because these are addressed to the Lee Select Board.
Okay, all
So
right,
this is the mechanism to get it to the board.
all right. I don't know if I should be concerned about this or not.
No, I would say not.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would say not either, but it
All
is.
right. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. On the consent agenda, any miscellaneous unfinished business that people would like to bring forward?
Did we vote on the consent agenda? I don't think we did.
I don't think you did.
Thank you for reminding me. It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Bugby, your vote.
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes,
Ms. LaCourse, yes, thank you. Now, miscellaneous unfinished business.
I don't have anything at this time, I don't think.
You know, I don't see anything either. I'm just kind of looking at the people and the panelists. I don't see any hands being raised. So I think we're okay. Therefore, I move to enter into non-public session, New Hampshire RSA 91-A:32A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Mr. Bugby?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
yes.
Mr. LaCourse? Yes, we'll go into non-public. Julie, you better make me a co-host.